Hello and welcome to the very first edition of this program, DPR, the Petroleum Industry Regulator. Did I hear you say it's about time? Well, I have personally been waiting for this moment. Now, time was when we all wanted to know more about the industry, so the program is finally here. Well, it is here to answer some of the nagging questions often asked. It could be, what does this Petroleum Resources Department do? Who are they? If what benefit are they to many? Now, this program will do pretty much more than that. It will bring all the many activities of this department to the comfort of wherever you have your television. Now, when this program talks about, the issues, we'll be asking some questions of those who are maybe officials of the regulators. So, when the department prides itself as the complex oil and gas regulator, do you have an idea of what that means and how it carries out this enormous responsibility? Worry not, let me take the trouble to educate, inform, and, if possible, entertain you on the statutory rules of DPR. Now, this program is designed in 3 phases, or you call them segments. First is the tidbits on current happenings in the oil and gas industry. The second segment will bring you a well-researched and an in-depth feature story on a specific subject for the day. Now, the third is the interview segment with the arrowheads of the various divisions that execute the policies of DPR. Don't worry, they'll speak to us on issues you love to hear about. Now, to kick the ball rolling for this maiden edition, well, I'll make it a little different. So my team and I today shall go down memory lane as we bring you an overview of the Department of Petroleum Resources now. Now we're talking about the various components and the journey so far. I'm Sulaiman Alede. So please make yourself comfortable as I bring you DPR, the Petroleum Industry Regulator.
I know it's the regulatory agency that is responsible for ensuring that, yes, various agencies that are in oil and gas, it does the monitoring, the registration, and also the evaluation for such businesses, such activities.
The Department of Petroleum Resources is a department of an NPC that assists to the monitoring of petroleum products and its distributions. And
I think they deal with petroleum. Are they in charge of stations and a lot of that?
They're in charge of regulating the pump prices, and in charge of general administration of petroleum resources being distributed across the nation.
I've been hearing, I've been reading on the news. I know it's part of a petroleum department in NPC.
No, not really. I've not heard anything like that.
Against the backdrop that a number of Nigerians are not adequately informed about what the Department of Petroleum Resources is all about and its statutory functions, this is an opportunity to inform and educate on what the department does to monitor and regulate this very important industry that is responsible for almost 40% of the nation's gross domestic products and almost 90% of our foreign exchange earnings. First, let's give you a brief historical perspective of this vital industry, past regulatory efforts, and what the agency has done in recent times. Nigeria is Africa's biggest crude oil producer and exporter, and one of the world's largest players. Her daily crude oil production is put at about 2.5 million barrels from more than 6,289 wells. Efforts to increase this daily output to about 4 million barrels are underway. Nigeria's crude oil reserve is currently put at about 36 billion barrels. With the current drive by the Department of Petroleum Resources and operators, this figure may increase to 40 billion barrels by the year 2020. Her gas reserves is put at 199 trillion cubic feet. And for now, efforts to explore non-associated gas are ongoing. Ironically, gas finds have been incidental to crude oil prospecting. Exploration of crude oil in what is today's Nigeria began in 1908 by a German company, but was abandoned as a result of the First World War. After the war in 1938, an Anglo-Dutch company, Shell Diaki, took over the exploration. But its own operation was also abandoned at the outbreak of the Second World War. Shell came back after the war in 1948 and made the first discovery of crude oil in commercial quantity in 1956 at Uloibiri in the present-day Bayelsa State. Since then, many high-profile discoveries of crude oil deposits have been made in the 70,000 square kilometers Niger Delta Basin by other oil companies that followed the trail of Shell. Some of these companies include Esso, Mobil, Ajib, Gulf, and Total Oil. As crude oil was discovered, natural gas was also discovered in huge quantity as associated gas. But the tragedy is that this commodity has for more than 50 years been largely flared by the operating companies. Today, this most endowed oil-producing areas of Nigeria still has a lot of potentials that beckon on serious investors. However, Nigeria's new hydrocarbon frontiers have moved to the continental shelf, shallow waters, and now deep offshore of the Gulf of Guinea, where huge discoveries have been made. They include the Bonga fields, Agbame, Era, Ukot, Chota, Ngolo, Ota, and many others. Today in Nigeria, a number of other basins are also offering huge investment potentials in the oil and gas sector. These include the Anambra Basin, known for its enormous gas reserves, the Chad Basin, where exploration is ongoing, the Sokoto-Rima Basin, the Benue Trough, and the Dahomey Basin. From all these indications, Nigeria, no doubt, is endowed with more vast natural gas resources. Her proven reserve in this subsector is put at about 199 trillion cubic feet, making it the world's 7th largest gas reserve. However, the undiscovered potential of natural gas in Nigeria, geologists believe, is even higher, as the United States Geological Survey estimated Nigeria's gas resources to be well over 600 trillion cubic feet. This ranks Nigeria's gas reserve potentials amongst the world's top 3. Presently, some efforts are being made by government to turn around this situation and even prospect for more gas, as some of Nigeria's basins contain high volumes of non-associated gas. It is against this maze of activities and many players in the industry that the federal government thought it wise to put in place enabling laws and institutions to monitor and regulate the activities in the industry. Hence, the establishment of the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR.
The department's statutory functions and oversight operation and supervision of the petroleum industry in Nigeria spans the entire spectrum of the oil and gas. And these include the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream.
Prior to the establishment of the department, petroleum industry matters in Nigeria were under the hydrocarbon section of the Ministry of Lagos Affairs. This section was directly managed by the Governor General. However, in 1970, the division was expanded and became the Department of Petroleum Resources. At about the same time, a new body called the Nigerian National Oil Corporation was also created to handle all commercial deals in the oil and gas industry. Even then, DPR remained in charge, supervising and controlling the petroleum industry. In 1975, the department was upgraded into a ministry and renamed Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. The name was later changed to Ministry of Petroleum Resources. In 1988, March 28th to be precise, the Inspectorate Directorate was excised from the NNPC and named the Department of Petroleum Resources, and subsequently merged with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to form its technical arm. Since then, the Department of Petroleum Resources has continued to oversee all activities of licensed players in the industry.
The Department of Petroleum Resources is the technical arm of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. We have the statutory role of ensuring compliance with our standards.
In order to carry out effective and productive monitoring and regulation of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, the Department of Petroleum Resources is subdivided into 9 major divisions. They are the Office of the Director, Health, Safety and Environment, Planning, Engineering and Standards, Upstream Monitoring and Regulations. Others include Downstream Monitoring and Regulation, Gas Monitoring and Regulation, as well as Finance and Accounts and Corporate Services. Under the Office of the Director are Basinal Assessment and Lease Administration, known as BALA, Legal, Public Affairs and Servicom units. The Directorate maintains its head office in Lagos, with 7 zonal offices in Abuja, Kaduna, Lagos, Maiduguri, Owerri, Port Harcourt, and Warri. It also has 21 field offices spread across the country.
Under these sectors, there are several assets which the department is mandated to regulate. And this includes the operational oil blocks under production. We have the terminals, that is export terminals. We have, in the downstream, we have many assets which include about 33,000 retail outlets, several storage depots, it's tank farms around the country. We have about 179 of them presently in existence. We also have lubricant plants, have gas plants, we have the refineries, which are 5 in number. We have several pipelines spanning the entire area of the oil production region, which is the Niger Delta, and across the country as well.
All these are aimed at effective regulations and monitoring of oil and gas activities in Nigeria, ensuring compliance with proven standards and global best practices, and conserving the nation's rich hydrocarbon resources. Other functions include optimizing government's take from exploration, exploitation, and production of hydrocarbon resources, administering and providing accurate and reliable status of oil and gas production and export figures to the government. This is for strategic planning and national development purposes. DPR promotes and guarantees safe, secured, and environmentally sustainable development in the oil and gas sector in the country. It maintains and administers effective repository for archival and retrieval of oil and gas data in Nigeria. Its final primary roles include the administration and management of oil and gas acreages and concessions in Nigeria and the implementation of all policies of government on oil and gas matters.
We process available open blocks, and the prerogative of allocation is that of Mr. President. But the department sets up the processes that lead to such allocation. And recently, we have gone from discretionary allocation to open bidding, which we think is more transparent and very accountable.
Under the directorship of Mr. Mordecai Ladan, the agency has not only moved from analog to digital mode of operation, it has also strengthened its partnership with other players in the industry, which has enhanced leadership-driven performance in line with global best practices. The department is now equipped with the relevant ICT tools as it positions itself as a 21st century regulator. With adequate electronic and digital equipments, DPR ensures compliance with the provisions of all extant rules and regulations by the operators and licensees in the oil and gas industry. The department sets new targets in key areas of its operations, which include assignment of interest, conversion, relinquishment and renewal of expired oil and gas mining leases, OMLs, for continuous production of crude oil and gas, and enhanced competition in the upstream sector. A total of 14 well drilling proposals were approved. 16 new field development plans were also approved. It is believed that all these will increase the nation's oil and gas production by about 600,000 barrels of crude oil per day when commissioned. The department also renewed 19 expired leases and converted one oil prospecting license, OPL, to an oil mining lease, OML, in the year 2017. This will enhance upstream investment influx and accelerate oil and gas reserves and production growth. It also processed within the same period the renewal of about 25 oil blocks, which have a combined revenue stream of $1 billion United States dollars. DPR upgraded and migrated to real-time framework to enhance Nigeria's oil and gas production accounting and crude oil export administration process through the National Production Monitoring System (NPMS). Efforts are also in place by the department to ensure robust supply and availability of domestic gas in Nigeria for power generation and manufacturing purposes. Along this line, DPR approved 2 major gas development plans fostering government's aspiration of more linkages between oil and gas and other sectors of the economy. In 2017 also, the department reported an increase in the country's natural gas reserves base from 198.74 to 199.09 trillion cubic feet, an increase of 0.18%. The bulk of the increase is attributed primarily to fields revision arising from additional data obtained from new development wells, reinterpretation of seismic data and studies. It has also improved liquefied petroleum gas penetration with local consumption, growing from 110,000 metric tons in 2010 to 390,000 metric tons in 2016. In line with the ongoing digitalization of the Department of Petroleum Resources processes, the Central Electronic License and Permit System was launched to automate the process for all permits and licenses issued by the department. The process automation modules currently running on DPR's online portal are OGISP, that is the Oil and Gas Industry Service Permit, Retail Outlets Monitoring System, ROMS, Automated Downstream System, ADS, and IMPEX, the Petroleum Import and Export Permit. Meanwhile, DPR has ensured oil and gas data availability to stakeholders through publications of statistical report on the website titled Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Annual Report, NOGA. Other major interventions by the Department of Petroleum Resources include issuance of 10 licenses and approvals for development of gas production processing facilities that culminated in the issuance of operational license to operate 2.5 metric tons per annum fertilizer plant, issuance of 27 oil and gas pipeline licenses with the installation of 49 kilometers of gas pipelines for industrial use and 5 kilometers of crude oil pipelines. The department granted 4 approvals for the introduction of hydrocarbon and use of fiscal metering system for 3 crude oil and 1 gas production accounting. It also issued 11 licenses and approvals for early production, central process and floating production facilities designed for crude oil production. It equally issued 6 licenses to establish LTE refineries and 6 approvals to construct refineries that would add 584,000 barrels per day to the nation's refining capacity. Remember, we had mentioned earlier that DPR is divided into 9 major divisions. Here they are in brief. The Health, Safety and Environment Division, HSE, takes care of the health and safety of those who work in the oil and gas industry as well as sustain the environment.
In the oil and gas industry, both the upstream and the downstream, every activity that go on in the industry have health, safety and environment component to it. In short, that is the basis for every activity that we do.
The planning division of the directorate is the engine room of the establishment.
We are in charge of the budget of the DPR. We are in charge of the data collation for the oil and gas industry, and we liaise with the OPEC on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria.
Gas division is responsible for regulating and monitoring activities related to natural gas exploration, development, utilization, and monetization in the industry, while basinal assessment and lease administration is responsible for evaluation of hydrocarbon potential of Nigerian sedimentary basins, and lease administration takes care of oil blocks.
The best thing that can happen to Nigeria is to develop the gas-rich resources that they have. And that is why the government, in its own wisdom, launched this roadmap that was in 2016, which we call 7 Big Wins.
It's in 2 sections, business assessment and lease administration. There are two functions put together in one. In the business assessment, what we do is we assess the basins in Nigeria where hydrocarbon occurs, oil and gas occurs. That's one function of the department.
Upstream monitors all the activities in the upstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, while the downstream makes sure the populace gets quality products for their vehicles and domestic use.
Upstream is the bedrock of the petroleum industry, and it has to do with looking for petroleum and producing it to the surface.
Downstream division is divided into 4 places. One is the crude oil terminal. And the other one is depot, product and jetty branch. Then we have a retail outlet branch. Then, of course, the lubricating oil branch.
While the engineering and standards ensure that all the engineering work in the Nigerian petroleum industry comply with regulations and meet international standards.
Engineering and Standard Division, as the name implies, handles the statutory regulations and monitoring of all issues relating to engineering design, fabrication, construction, installation, up onto commissioning of all oil and gas facilities in Nigeria.
Corporate Services Division takes care of staff and ensures expatriate quota is maintained in companies operating in the country's oil and gas industry. The Finance Division maintains the department's earnings from taxes and internal financial issues.
Corporate Services comprises of human resources, services, and Nigerian content, with medical also as an integral part. With this broad mandate, it is part of the responsibility of corporate services to ensure we have talented staff in the industry.
All these separation of duties in the department are geared towards upholding its vision statement of being a leading regulator in the Nigerian oil and gas industry. This is to ensure that its mission statement of sustainable development of Nigeria's oil and gas resources across the value chain for stakeholders through effective regulation while entrenching world-class professionalism, accountability and transparency is actualized.
Lots of good things are coming out of here. This is very exemplary. I can create the concepts, but having to take those to execution stage, is a big work.
The Department of Petroleum Resources has no doubt entered a new phase, a phase where transparency is maintained and where its cardinal responsibilities are strictly adhered to.
Welcome back. Plenty to talk about and plenty to really catch up on. I hope you have been much better informed on what the Department of Petroleum Resources does to regulate and monitor the Nigerian oil and gas industry. So from next week, we shall begin to take you through the various departments of this well-thought-out establishment. The program promises to be expository and informative as we get to know many more about this department and its importance in the oil and gas industry. Well, I hope you'll be there when I come your way again next week. I'm Sulaiman. Many thanks for watching.